All right, hello everyone. Hello, Kamala. Natalie is here today. Natalie White, artivist, activist. I don't know. A force of nature, I guess, is what we're trying to say. She is a phenomenal person. We're going to have her on. She's hanging out with Boney in the green room right now. We're going to do some breathing. We're going to bring her on. I wanted to call attention to my shirt at the top of the show here. For those of you who are into the animal person, Sethward, I got a shirt. This is the shirt cam. It's Sethward as a walrus. It's hard to point at these kind of things. But anyway, that's Sethward as a walrus. If you go to patreon.com/Sethward, Sethward is on America's Got Talent. He's been on there many times, but he's on there currently. This is him as a walrus. He was also a peacock, and soon he's going to be some other kind of bird. You can find that out if you go to his Patreon site and get the inside scoop, and you can get a shirt. So there you have it. So yeah, I'm going to get on with the show because I've got Natalie White here, and she's going to tell us some cool stuff that maybe some of us don't even know. Could be. All right, here we go. Hey, Guy Fly, how's your eye? I'm gonna get myself a modem. 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 All right, shirt cam is still on. Don't know if we're going to be having shirt cam for the entire show, but we can always go back to it. It's a new feature on Lunch Therapy. Lunch Therapy is a show where you take a break from all the crap that's going on in the world, because there's a lot of it. There's a lot going on. We are definitely being provided with a lot of crap. So today we're gonna talk about how we can get out of this mess. How we can keep our mind right, how we can do some art, how we can have fun. But first we're going to breathe. Behind me is a ferry boat that was sent to me by Guignel, one of our viewers. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. There's Guignel right now. Let it go. Shake it out if you have to. Shake it out. I know there's a lot of confusion going on these days, a lot of weird stuff where we're like, which end is up? What is happening? Crapshoot, Charles says. In through the nose, out through the toes. Hold it. Let it go. This view back here is from Chuck Goldsmith. Anybody wants to send me backgrounds, please. Try and keep the camera still so everybody doesn't get vertigo, but it's really nice to have. So thanks, Chuck. Thanks, Guignel. Chuck says, dicey. Yep, it's kind of dicey. My guest today, I'm very, very honored to have this guest, Natalie White. She is an artist. She has been working diligently for the Equal Rights Amendment, which Kamala and I also are working for that. And we've been working together. We both independently had this realization that women didn't have equal rights under the Constitution. Kamala shot like a rocket to get that thing ratified. And apparently Natalie was doing the same on the East Coast. And we came together, and it's been a beautiful, beautiful thing, but quite a fight. And then also, Natalie is a renowned artist in her own right, and that is how she also fights for her activism. So let's get her on the show without further ado, as they say in the, I don't know, in France? Is that what where they say it? All right, here we go. This is Natalie White. Yes! Here we are on Interview Friday with the famous, fabulous Natalie White. Thanks for being here.
Oh, thank you for having me, Joel. You're
It's
so nice.
great to see you. Um,
Great to be seen and great to see you too.
how did we meet? Through the ERA.
Yeah, so Kamala, who,
Yeah.
for those of you who don't know, Joel is married to Kamala.
Mm-hmm.
She was working on a documentary called Equal Means Equal that I had no idea about. She had been working on it for years. So
Mm-hmm.
I heard about this girl who, was working for years on a movie about the Equal Rights Amendment, a documentary.
Yeah.
And then she heard about this girl who, is an artist who was walking from New York to Washington, D.C. for the ERA and then tagged the Capitol
Who could that
and
be?
got arrested.
Oh my God, I
And
think
so,
that's the incredible Natalie White who was doing that.
yeah, that's me. And so we both kind of came together in this realization that we were both kind of solely alone working on something that we would be so much better if we just combined forces, because it takes a lot of heart to make a documentary, as you know, for many years on a political subject, and it also takes a lot of guts to like walk from New York to DC and then break the law and get arrested. So we kind of found our like political activist soulmates.
Yeah.
That we were politically activist soulmates. Yeah, that's it.
How did you find out about the ERA? I know how we found out about, I mean, a lot of us, I think most people think that ERA was ratified, Equal Rights Amendment. Women are equal in the Constitution.
And then, I had a gallery at the time called Wall Play, and Laura O'Reilly, she's amazing. If anybody ever gets a chance to work with her, they should. She told me that they had an opening at their storefront at the Hole Gallery in New York. So it was Wall Play at the Hole, and that during the month of August that they had like no shows. And so I said, well, why don't I take it over?
Yeah.
And so I had like a few weeks to prepare. And so I had done this like performance art piece, like in a plexiglass box, like many times. First I did it in Paris, and then I did it in Miami. And then I was like, well, let's just bring back the plexiglass box. I've done it before. Why not?
What exactly does it entail? The plexiglass box. Tell us.
So, well, this particular plexiglass box performance we included an American flag, which wasn't included before.
I see.
And it entails me sitting, laying down, lounging on this American flag inside a plexiglass box for 7 hours a day, 6 days a week, topless in the window of the gallery, two-way traffic. And in New York City. And so, since I didn't have like a lot of time to prepare for this show, I was just like, oh, this show is about the lack of movement within the women's movement in America. I knew I was a feminist. I didn't know much about the history of feminism or about the ERA. Or really anything to do with it. But I just knew that I felt like the women's movement wasn't moving in America. And then my friends, Sarah Beth and Phil, came to the opening. And they told me that the reason why the women's movement wasn't moving was because women didn't have equal rights in the United States Constitution. And I was floored. I was like, are you kidding me? Like, I was angry. And I was, first of all, angry that women didn't have equal rights in the United States Constitution. And then I was also angry because no one had told me. And so I went around to like I come from West Virginia, like a small town. Like, I didn't have like any plans to go to college or anything. So I went around to like all of my like Harvard, Yale, Princeton, Ivy League educated friends who were like top lawyers and stuff. And I was like, did you know that women didn't have equal rights in the United States Constitution? And like, they didn't either. So I was like, well,
they didn't know either. Yeah. They didn't know either.
Nobody knew.
No.
I was telling them something new. The only people that knew were
It's
Phil and
not
Sarah
taught.
Beth.
It's not taught anywhere
Yeah,
that I know of.
exactly.
I mean, it is, I'm sure, somewhere, but we all slipped through the cracks. I mean, I remember when I was a kid, and in the 70s when they were going after ERA, and I assumed that it was ratified. I assumed it was in the Constitution. But no.
Anybody who had heard about the ERA thought that it was in the Constitution.
Yeah.
But most people hadn't even heard of it, or it was like something that they knew about, but they thought that it had like worked itself out.
Yeah.
Like people would be like, "Oh yeah, my mom worked on the ERA back in like the 80s or the late 70s and the 80s," and they were like, "Whatever happened to that?" And so I felt like it was a moral obligation of mine to go out and do something about it. Like I have this platform as an artist, like people write about me in newspapers. So I thought, well, nobody else is going to do this. I guess I'm going to have to take it up.
How did you, I just want to go back and say, how did you come to be an artist when, you came from West Virginia? You said that, I think your dad worked for the CDC, right? He's a doctor, right?
Yeah. So I was a model when I was younger. I started being modeling when I was a teenager.
Yeah.
And I came to New York when I was a teenager, and I found myself like being asked to be like muses for photographers and painters.
What exactly is that? I mean, I know what a muse is. It inspires the artist. But what did you do?
So I was like the subject of the artwork. So the photos would be of me and the paintings would be of me. And also it was like a collaborative process. Like I would work with the artist to, figure out what concept we had, whether it be, photography, which, being the subject of photography, like a muse would like drive the photo shoot.
Yeah.
It's a little bit different with painting because you have to come up with the concepts like before the painting starts.
Yeah.
And then, I learned from these really great, amazing artists how to make art. I'd always made art, but I had never like had a master teacher like Peter Beard or George Condo, been in a studio of somebody like that, watching them work. So that's how I learned how to make art.
And did you come straight from West Virginia to New York as a model, and that's how you got there?
Well, I also did some modeling in Asia early on too. Like I modeled in India. I went to Hyderabad, Bangalore, Chennai, Delhi, New Delhi, Goa.
How did that happen? You were like at home. Were you at the mall or something? And somebody was like, you could be a model.
So somebody came up to my mom in a mall in Pittsburgh, which like Pittsburgh was like the big city for like where I was from. Like it was about like an hour and a half to 2 hours away. And, it would be such a big deal if we were going to Pittsburgh.
Yeah.
If it was our birthday weekend, like our parents would take us to Pittsburgh to the mall and we got to, pick out like a t-shirt or two. Or like go to the Science Center or the Carnegie Museum.
Did you ever go to the Andy Warhol Museum? I guess that was not around. Yeah.
So the Warhol Museum is like a section of the Carnegie Museum, and it's interesting because down in Pittsburgh they call it Carnegie. Yeah. Which is like here in New York they call it Carnegie. Yeah. So there's always like this like argument over like which is it? Is it Carnegie or is it Carnegie? And like Andrew Carnegie came from Pittsburgh.
Yeah, so I guess they might be right.
Yeah, so they might be right, but don't tell any of these New Yorkers because
they also say chimney though. They say chimney instead of chimney in Pittsburgh.
Oh yeah,
and they say lots of things. Like but you know what? I always say, however you pronounce your name, that's the right way to pronounce it because it's your name, right?
Yeah.
Kamala says my dad went there. My parents are from Pittsburgh. So for us, when we were
Oh,
kids,
that's so cool.
yeah, we used to go to Pittsburgh. My dad's an artist. He's from Pittsburgh. He also,
Yeah.
that's
Oh
where he
my
started going to
God.
school, was in Pittsburgh. Like his uncle would take him to do drawing classes because he was, his dad
Oh
was a bread
wow.
truck
Yeah.
driver and he didn't know anything about art, but he had a talent. And so he would always, his uncle would drive him down to Carnegie and
Yeah.
Carnegie.
Carnegie
Yeah. And he would take classes and that's how he got a
Yeah.
start. And then he went to the Cleveland Institute of Art.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I have friends at the Cleveland Museum of Art too. What a small world.
It's a small world. So when we were kids, that's where we vacationed, was Pittsburgh. We always went to Pittsburgh.
Oh my gosh. Did you
Yeah.
go to Permane Brothers?
Yes, of course. Get some chip
I
beef.
love Permane Brothers. It's like they take like the fries and then they melt the cheese
Yeah.
and then they throw the bacon
That's
on
the
top.
famous
and then
sandwich shop in Pittsburgh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Going downtown to Pamini's to get some chip beef.
Yeah. You're going to go downtown.
Going downtown to see the Stillers.
Stillers. The
Yeah.
Pittsburgh Stillers.
Pittsburgh
Yeah.
Stillers. They played yesterday, by the way. Exhibition game. NFL has begun. Everybody's happy.
Oh. Well, hey,
Yeah.
every year for the Super Bowl, no matter who's playing, I
Yeah.
wear a Pittsburgh Steelers jersey.
You,
Like, I don't care
no
if,
matter
like,
who's playing.
the Patriots.
Good
or-
idea. Good
yeah.
idea.
So, like, I'm not gonna like jump on a bandwagon and go
Mhm.
support another team just because mine didn't make it to the
Yes,
Super Bowl.
right. You're a true fan. True fan.
Yeah.
So, okay, so they plucked you out of
and
Pittsburgh. What?
my sister went to Point Park,
Oh, yeah?
which is right across the street from Carnegie Mellon.
Yeah, where the rivers meet,
Yeah.
where the three rivers meet. So tell me, so they pluck you out of Pittsburgh, which is where everybody goes for
I was
opportunity.
in West Virginia, but they found me in Pittsburgh.
They found you, yeah. They found you in Pittsburgh, and you went all over India. What was that like as a little kid doing modeling at that age?
It was so much fun.
Really?
And I got to meet like this really famous Bollywood actor called Salman Khan, and he threw a birthday party for me at his house.
Really?
And like now when I tell like all of my friends who are from India that Salman Khan had a birthday party for me, they go nuts.
Really?
Yeah, it's so funny because like nobody here in this country knows who that is.
Yeah.
Like,
But there,
and-
it's like
well,
George
also-
Clooney.
Yeah, it would be like saying Tom Cruise.
Tom Cruise
like,
threw you a birthday
Tom
party.
Cruise threw you a birthday party. Yeah.
That's great.
And I remember like some Hindi words, but the words that I remember are like the really bad words because
Oh, yeah?
like my friends over there, like they thought that it was funny that I said like really bad words with an American
They
accent.
taught you all the bad words.
Yeah.
That's funny. Okay, so I want to jump ahead because you're in New York, you're a muse. Then did you start, so was it when you started doing the plexiglass box? Was that when you started your art? Or was that before, after? When did you start being an artist on your own?
So I had my first show in 2013.
Mhm.
So by then I had been working with different artists since, like 2005 or something.
Yeah.
2004, 2005, something like that. I had moved to New York. So my first show was Who Shot Natalie White? And Who Shot Natalie White was like a retrospective, which was pretty insane because like...
A retrospective. Well, because you were starting out, but it was a retrospective.
Yeah, it was the very first time that I showed my own work,
Yeah.
but it was a retrospective because
Oh.
it was 24 different artists that I had been the muse and subject of their artwork, came together to put on this show, and I showed my artwork for the first time. So it's kind of a play on the film Who Shot Andy Warhol?
Yeah.
Because Andy Warhol got shot by a gun by this obsessed fan,
Mhm.
and it was more about like shooting a camera with me.
Wow. Yeah, that's cool. I was just looking to see if I could find, there is an actual video about it. Let's just check it out. I don't know. I've never seen this before, but let's check it out. Hold on a second. So here is from Who Shot Natalie White. Seems to be. I'm going to see if we can just see some images in this video. Is this it?
Yeah, so those are my double exposed giant Polaroids. That's a Peter Beard right behind the gallerist. That's a Michael Dweck. That's a Paul Forsman photo.
So you are art as well as being an artist.
Yeah, I guess so.
Wow.
Oh, that's Michael Herner. That's Peter Beard again. That's Spencer Tunick. That's Michael Dweck. That's a Peter Beard.
I wonder if you're in this video. Do you think?
Oh yeah. Wait. Oh, that's me.
There you are.
This is
Should we listen to you talk?
White.
Let's listen to you talk. This is the brunette, Natalie White. I love it. All right, let's see.
I feel like I'm visiting my friends on the walls. So that's what
This is
Natalie White is, and it's it's featuring my work that I did of myself that was really inspired by everybody that I've been working with over the years. I just do what I feel. I don't do anything because I think that somebody will react or feel a certain way because of it. I invite anyone who thinks that this is indecent to come to the gallery and meet with me and speak with me, because this is not about exploiting female sexuality. It's about celebrating it, and every woman should be proud of their body, and they shouldn't be ashamed in hiding themselves.
Wow, that was cool. All right, I'm gonna. Is that weird seeing yourself from way back whenever that was?
No, I'm used to it.
You're used to it. And
I have a lot of reminders of photos. Sometimes I walk into people's houses that I've never been to before, and like friends will bring me in, and there will just be pictures of me up on their walls, and they had no idea. Some of them have no idea that it was me.
Kamala says, tell us about Spencer Tunick.
Oh, Spencer Tunick. Spencer Tunick is one of my best friends. I actually was just on Cape Cod with him and his family for a week, and he was photographing me up there. Yeah. Spencer is, just such an inspiration. He, does installations of thousands of nude people.
Mm-hmm. I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. And, he loves what we're doing with Equal Means Equal. He's been so supportive. His whole family is. And, I think that his work is really great because it brings people together. So here's like thousands of people who have nothing in common except for that they're coming together for this vision of art. And in a way, like, Spencer is creating his own world peace by, stripping people down to the bareness of themselves. And, I was talking to Chrissy, his wife, about this. Mm-hmm. And, I've assisted in these photo shoots. I assisted in the one in Munich where there was 3,000 people. And I've also been like one of the subjects. Yeah. And, when you're nude around all of these thousands of people in one of these Spencer Tunick photos, you kind of feel like you're not naked because like you're wearing this like uniform of like everyone matches uniform. Yeah. Because you're all stripped down, you're all kind of in the same uniform. And assisting for it, you totally forget that there's all these people that are naked around you.
That's so fascinating. So it's almost like a unifying thing. It's a unifying.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And, being nude isn't that provocative. Like if I was going to go like down the street and wear a very revealing dress with like high heels and everything sticking out, like that would be provocative, but not being nude for some reason. For some reason, being nude is like everybody's going to run away from you and be scared of you if you're nude. Yeah, like they're going to keep on walking down the street next to you if you're wearing a provocative outfit. But
right. If you're nude, it's like, oh my God. Yeah.
Hands up. Yeah.
Yeah, we get kind of crazy. You even posed in Playboy, right? I have a picture here.
4 times.
4 times. So how does that, I mean, sometimes we think of Playboy as like a misogynistic magazine that's exploiting women. I don't know. Sometimes that's what's thought of. Do you feel that that's just totally false? Or how does it go with your women's rights activism?
So the first 2 times I was in Playboy, it was French Playboy. So in France, it's just not a big deal to be nude.
Yeah.
Like women walk around on the beach topless in France. So it was a totally French Playboy, by the way, at the time when I posed for French Playboy, was a totally different magazine than the American Playboy was at the time. American Playboy has, now evolved, and it's not, the same magazine that it was 10 years ago. Yeah. But when I posed in French Playboy for the first time, I believe it was 2010. And, it was styled with all of this Chanel jewelry, and it was like a fashion editorial. And sure, I was, topless and nude in some of the pictures, but, in France, it's just not a big deal. So the whole idea of being exploited in France is not a thing because, it's just like seeing a woman in a bikini at the pool is just the same exact reaction to you that people see in France. But the 2 times that I was in American Playboy, they had both times written articles about my activism. And I mean, I can't speak for anyone else's feelings about, what's going on in their life or how their feelings are. But I can tell you, I was never exploited.
Yeah.
And I think that maybe the reason why was because I was working with artists. Maybe if I had worked with, people more on the commercial side, doing advertising and things like that, those are coveted jobs, right? So people want to be in magazines. And, if you're in a magazine for a fashion advertisement, it only lasts for a few months and then it's gone. I have paintings and fine art photos of me that I haven't even seen or, kind of forgotten about from years ago. And they're still showing in art galleries right now. But, I can't speak for anybody else's experience, but I can tell you that I wasn't exploited, and I was in the magazine, and really, I mean, at the time, anything to draw attention to the equal rights of women.
I think that's, it's true. You're kind of leveraging the shock value that is innate in American society about nudity to draw attention to a very important subject. And it's not just for the sake of nudity, it's for a purpose.
Well, constitutional law is boring. So
well, that's what I appreciate about you is you call attention to these subjects because this stuff is super boring, and you got to really inject it with some humor, some sexiness, some fun. And
totally.
Okay, so let's jump to this thing where you walked from New York all the way to DC to draw attention to the Equal Rights Amendment. How'd that happen? You did a show before that. I'm going to show a little clip just to set this up.
Okay.
Put your energy where your mouth is, because if we don't have what we want in school, the city or the state, you have no right to complain unless you're here to do something. It's always the same 5 to 7 people that do anything. Yeah. People come out for the parties, but they don't want to do the grunt work.
Now, certainly things have improved, but there's just no guarantee because it's not in the Constitution.
You get to look back and say, well, it's been done. And everybody who challenges me who are trying to do the impossible as being naive and what are you doing, you're banging your head against the wall. Every one of those people has forgotten that everything they take for granted in an advanced society was once impossible.
We owe it to the feminists that came before us, alive and dead, that worked so hard to pass the ERA. We owe it to them to do this.
Okay, yes. So that is like a little trailer about this, but you did a show and then you walked from New York to DC. Tell us about that.
Right. So when I was in the box on the Bowery, the plastic box, topless, I was told by Phil and Sarah that women didn't have equal rights in the United States Constitution. I had a lot of time to think. Because, I mean, think about this. I'm in a plexiglass box for 7 hours a day and, 6 days a week. And so I thought, hey, I really need to make a show about the ERA. And I need to walk from New York to DC. And I don't know where the walk came from, but, while I was laying down in this box for hours and hours, Natalie White for Equal Rights came about. And while I was in the box, I was thinking, well, I've got to make a sculpture, a lifetime-size sculpture of myself wearing combat boots, holding an American flag. I've got to make a large, giant Polaroid installation. And then I started to think about the American Revolutionary War. That's 13 feet tall by 25 feet wide, wow. 76 separate giant Polaroids.
It's incredible.
And I started to think about the American Revolutionary War and how people start to understand symbols and, art gets to tell you things without necessarily preaching at you. You can just look at it and get a feeling back from it, right? Mm-hmm. So that's when I came up with the idea to use American Revolutionary War flags and symbols and turn them into feminist flags and symbols. So I've got the Gadsden flag, which says "Don't tread on me" and has the rattlesnake on it. Mm-hmm. And I put a figure of myself behind the rattlesnake. And then because I wanted people to understand that, the United States is, treading on our rights by not giving us equality of rights under the law.
Yeah.
So I also did the flag that says "Sons of Liberty Defend the Republic." I turned it into "Sisters of Liberty Demand Equal Rights." And in that flag, there's a slithering snake.
Yeah.
And it's cut up into pieces in the original flag, it's cut up into pieces that symbolize the original 13 colonies. Because they're back in the days of the American Revolutionary War, the rattlesnake was a symbol for the U.S. because rattlesnakes were in all 13 original colonies. Mm-hmm. And so I wanted to take something that somebody would feel powerful about we need a revolution. We're fighting for our rights. We're taking back what's ours. Here we are human and we, want to revolt. And I wanted people to look at that, have the feeling of revolution, and then put that energy that they're feeling into women's rights. So here's a flag and a symbol that already represented a revolution, but I'm trying to explain you my revolution through similar feelings that they had back then.
I like that. I like the way you're taking iconic American symbols and using them towards a very, I guess, marginalized cause.
Yeah.
Making it
there's a cause that nobody even talks about.
Right. Or knows about or works about, you know what I mean? So even people that know about it, a lot of times don't do anything about it. They're like, well, it's going along okay.
Let's have a women's march and then have none of the causes be only about women.
Right.
Why is it that if we have a march for women's rights, that there has to be 15 things that have nothing specifically to do with women? Why can't we have a cause that is just specific to us?
Yeah, it's a good question. So you did this march by yourself then, basically, from New York to
I
DC.
did have people with me.
You did? Along the way or the whole way?
A couple of people were there the whole way. And, well, I'd say there was like a group of 10 of us, that were there the whole way. So there was like, I had also hired like 2 drivers to drive campers so that we would sleep in the campers. And then we had this like Forrest Gump type of feel where like people would come and like walk with us for like short periods of time.
Yeah.
And it's actually much easier to walk this than you think. Like I live in New York, right? So like I just naturally like walk 7 miles a day, just getting stuff done and going places. Because Ubers are insanely expensive, and even if you're taking the subway, you still have to walk to the subway.
Yeah, there's so much walking you do when you live in New York.
Yeah, there's so much walking in New York. So like just naturally, you probably walk like 7 miles a day in New York, just like being there. So I was doing 20 miles a day. Most of the time I was doing 20 miles a day. So I would do 10 in the morning, rest during the hot afternoons, and then 10 in the evening. And it's just easy. It's so easy when you tell people that, because you're just, if the only thing that you have to do all day is just get from point A to point B, makes it easier.
And then when you got there, you spray painted ERA Now.
I actually used paint and a brush.
Oh, you did?
Yeah. So I just let it go when people say spray paint, like when they write it. But I actually I poured stiletto red water soluble washable paint into a Starbucks cup, and then I brought my Starbucks cup, and then my paintbrush, and I just walked right up to the Capitol building, broad daylight on a Sunday, and I was really, nervous that I wouldn't get out the whole thing. Yeah. So I started out by writing ERA in, and then a space, and then W, because I didn't want to get stopped before I wrote the W. Like I didn't want it to say ERA No. And if it said ERA, and if it said ERA and W, that would have been fine, because ERA Natalie White and W, right? Yeah. So after I got the W out, I was like, oh my God, thank God, I got the whole thing. Yeah. Now I can even write the O. And I'm like looking around, and I'm like, nobody's coming around to arrest me. Yeah. And then so I go over the O, and then still nobody is arrested. There is like a police car with police officers.
I see it right there.
Like 10 yards away.
And you've got your Starbucks. It's great.
Got my Starbucks cup. Starbucks should totally give us money for that.
Totally.
Right?
Totally. It's great. But this is great. So you got your word across, but still they did come after you.
I actually went over it 3 times.
Yeah.
And then still nobody was coming over to arrest me. I was like, this is like the most anticlimactic event in my life.
Were there people standing around that had like followed your journey? Or was it just you and your Starbucks, just you alone?
It's just, I had a camera person. I told my friend.
Somebody took the picture,
I told my friend who was the camera person to follow me, because I was about to do something important.
Yeah, I love it. I love that. You just went out and did it yourself. So then what happened?
I actually walked away. Nobody arrested me. I walked away. And then I told everyone I knew that, hey, I tagged the U.S. Capitol building grounds, and I totally got away with it. And then it ended up in the New York Post, because, you tell somebody it's something that important. Yeah. They started calling up people.
And then what happened?
Well, and then they sent 2 Capitol police officers in an airplane from D.C. to New York to arrest me. But I wasn't actually there. I was in D.C. the whole time. I had left to go to the Democratic convention. Yeah. But I came back to D.C. and so they sent 2 Capitol police officers to knock down my door in New York. And my roommate was there, and she was like, no, Natalie's not here. I have no idea where she is. So when I found out that they sent, and like, this is the thing. Like, normally they don't have to send like Capitol Police officers to Washington, D.C. to make an arrest. But like, they called up the NYPD, and the NYPD were like, this is not important enough for us to like even make
Painted on
like,
the sidewalk.
They were like, this is not important enough for us to take 10 minutes to go knock on somebody's door. So they were like, but we have to do it. So Delta's computers went down that day, so they were actually stuck in New York. But when I found out that they had come up to arrest me, I called up a friend of mine, Ron Kuby. He's like a major Supreme Court lawyer, civil rights hero. Ron Kuby. He actually represented Spencer Tunick too, at the U.S. Supreme Court twice. All over, like public nudity and free speech.
I imagine he didn't get away with that all the time. Public nudity.
Yeah,
3,000 people.
I called up Ron Kuby and I was like, hey, Ron, I think there's a warrant out for my arrest. What do I do? And he's like, hold up, let me find out. So I started tweeting photos at the Capitol Police officer, like me in like women's equality jail.
Yeah.
And it was this fake jail that that my friend at the time had used down in DC, had used for like different protests and stuff.
So
like
you set up like a cage, essentially, that was a fake jail.
Yeah, it was a massive cage, though. It was used for David Bronner's hemp arrest, where he was arrested in a fake jail that was like just left on the street somewhere in Washington, D.C., and he had like all of these hemp plants in them. So I jumped into that fake jail. And I had a friend of mine start taking photos of me, and I started tweeting like topless photos of me in this fake jail at the Capitol Police, being like, "Hey, I'm not in New York where you thought I was. I've been in Washington D.C. the whole time." And so I found out from Kuby that yes, there was a warrant out for my arrest. So I had to give myself up. And
so you gave yourself up.
I had to give myself up. And I spent a night in jail. And then they decided to press charges against me, which I thought was so ridiculous.
Yeah.
So I just upped the ridiculous ante to a new level and said, I'm going all Abby Hoffman style on them. And I am going to represent myself and make a circus out of this courtroom. So I did.
So you didn't hire a lawyer. You represent yourself. Yeah.
And also, they set my trial date for January 17th and 18th, which, like the inauguration of Donald Trump was on the 20th and the Women's March was on the 21st. So everybody was in town for the Women's March. And we were able to like get it, the ERA in the news because of my trial and because of the Women's March. And Kamala came down and stayed with me. And that's Patricia Arquette, Ron Baldwin, Tony Kaye, Adam Eidinger, me, Sarah Beth, Lizzie Jagger, and Kamala Lopez.
There she is.
And she came and stayed with me in Washington, D.C.
So that was after you won the case, right? Everybody was there.
Kind of, but we really did win because we all bonded and we all came together and came up with strategies for the ERA at the time. So that was our win, but I was found guilty, and the judge said, unfortunately, I have to find you guilty because there was this like pro-life group who did like a chalk mural, and
they were found guilty.
I think it was in Lafayette Park, right in front of the White House, and like they were arrested for doing a chalk mural. So they said that since I
did the same thing,
that I had to be arrested too. But since they were found guilty, that I had to be found guilty too. But the judge said that I spent no time in jail, that I got a $50 fine, or he said whatever I wanted to pay to the victims, crime victims fund, and
That's nice.
and then the prosecution recommended a 6-month stay away from the Capitol. But I slammed my hands down on the desk and I stood up and I said, "No, Judge, you cannot keep me away from the Capitol for 6 months because I am an American citizen. And as an American citizen, I have the right to meet with my senator or representative or any of their staff." And he said, "Fine, I'll give you a 6-month stay away from the Capitol with the provision that if you're going there to meet with one of your members of Congress for the ERA, any of their staff or lobbyists, that I could go to the Capitol."
Wow. So I feel like that's a win. I think you
Me
won.
too. Me
I
too.
think you won and represented yourself. So that's really something. Unfortunately, we're going to have to end the show. There's so much more to talk about.
Oh, no, wait. Oh, no, wait.
Okay. Oh, we're going to talk about this. This is our friend Jules. Wait a sec. Let me look it up here. This is Reserved Magazine. I'm going to go to the website here and show you. Because we want to definitely call attention to our friends' things.
So I'm on the cover of Reserved Magazine.
You are.
Our friend and activist Jules Wood did this magazine, and I'm on the cover of it. That's my
oh my gosh, that's your art.
That's my art on the cover.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, this is a great magazine. I have copies myself.
Yeah,
this is,
so
very
go
hipster
buy
magazine.
a copy on Reserved Magazine's website. And also, if you want to know more about where we are with the Equal Rights Amendment,
yes,
you can go to equalmeansequal.org and you can learn more about the ERA. You can donate to us because we always need that. And you can find out where we are with our lawsuit and suing the federal government, which is one of my favorite hobbies.
This fight is not over. The show might be over, but this fight is not over. I'm putting this on there too. So equalmeansequal.org. And then also Reserve Magazine. Check out the edition that has the artwork, Natalie's artwork on it. I mean, I feel like we just started this discussion, but
I could go on forever about this.
So there's the whole journey with the Equal Rights Amendment is really something else. You can follow that at equalmeansequal.org.
How'd I do, Jill?
You did great. Fantastic. So let's, we're going to have to dance the show out. I really appreciate all of this. Now let me just get us back to here. Yes. So thank you, Natalie, for being on the show. I think we're going to have you on again because there's so much more to talk about. But this has been super fascinating. And I hope that you'll come to the show again. What about the White Horse Red Ladies? I do want to show this. So this is when you were all handmaids. So there's been multiple actions that have been taken with the equalmeansequal.org organization. And so we made the movie. Then there was the equalmeansequal.org, which is a nonprofit. And it's to call awareness to the ERA and how it had not been ratified. And since you and Kamala came together, this thing has been ratified through many, many efforts, which they're too numerous to go into right now. But one of them is that you've been doing these crazy capers, continued to do these crazy capers. And this is one that you did in front of the White House, where everybody dressed up like handmaids, and you are on a horse. And who's the woman that you're portraying?
Oh gosh,
Kamala will tell us.
Kamala, do you know?
I'm going to show you the clip. Ines Holland. I couldn't think of it either, but she.
Is there Ines Holland?
Yeah.
Ines.
Kamala will tell us. Here we go. I'm going to play this. It's funny.
I'm gonna look it up in the meantime.
All right. And you can, yeah, you can look it up. I'm just gonna play this here.
Of the United States.
In order to form a more perfect union.
Establish justice.
Ensure domestic tranquility.
Provide for the common defense.
Promote the general welfare.
And secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity.
Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America.
But this Constitution has always excluded women.
Written in 1787, when women had no rights at all. Women were deliberately left out.
Still today, in 2018, women are not given equal rights and protections under federal law. Because we're not included in the Constitution.
I am here to tell you that we have a solution for this injustice. The Equal Rights Amendment, written in 1923, would provide women with basic civil and human rights. It is still 2 states short of ratification. We need it today more than ever. Presently, there are 14 states that have still not ratified the ERA. You must urge these states to vote now and legalize our equality.
Oh, I blew it there. The horse whinnied there.
Wait, I just want to point out that horse had its own idea of civil disobedience right there in front of the White House too.
Yes, really.
It could not be heard in our language, but he spoke heaps on his own.
He took a crap, that's what you're saying. How do you get a horse in front of the White House? I don't understand. I mean, I love this activism because it just calls attention to a subject and it's not violent and it's not anything.
How does anybody else get a horse in front of the White House?
How does anybody get a horse? They can't.
We waited till the government, when we were there, the government was shut down. So there was no park workers, no one to tell us that we didn't have a permit to do this. Like, you can't just walk a horse right up in front of the White House. So there was a federal government shutdown. No parks people were there. The only people that were there were people holding machine guns and, trying to protect the Capitol. And trust me, they didn't care whether we had a horse or not. They wanted to make sure we didn't have any weapons.
Yeah.
So who cares? We just told everybody we had a permit. We told everybody it was allowed. By the way, that was a totally wild horse. It was supposed to be like a tame horse. That horse was not tame at all. And I had just had surgery a few months before this. So I was jumping up on a not tame horse who's not used to being in a city. I'm used to being on horses, but not that horse. I don't know that horse.
Pamela says you masterminded and totally hoodwinked her.
Oh yeah, I kept on telling her that it was all allowed. I didn't tell her till the end that none of this was, the whole thing that we did was illegal.
One time I went to a water slide park with my friend and he bought a ticket and he was ahead of me and I took his ticket and I put it in my pocket and then he was like, "Where's my ticket?" And they were like, "We just gave it to you." And he's like, No, you didn't." And he got so mad, they finally gave him another ticket. And then when we went inside, I was like, oh, I took your ticket. And he said, well, why didn't you tell me?
Yeah.
And I said, because you were so convincing, because you didn't know. And that was your...
So Pamela is totally right. I knew that in order to actually pull this off, that I had to make everyone around me think that this was also completely fine.
Yeah.
Because like I knew that I could pull it off because there was a federal shutdown. Yeah. And you can get away with things that you never thought that you could get away. Like I could have gotten away with tagging the U.S. Capitol. If I would have just not told anybody about it afterwards. Mm-hmm. Like, and you know, so I totally convinced everyone that
Jedi mind trick.
Oh my God. And like, so Kamala was like telling these police officers about a certain law that gave us the right to like do this, that she was fully convinced. And so she was so convinced that she convinced the police officers that like, that they didn't know what they were talking about.
That's hilarious. All right. Oh, this is a good way to end the show. Okay, so now we're going to dance our way out. If anybody has any questions for Natalie, send them our way. Because there's a lot of things we couldn't talk about today, but we're just because of time. But it's so great having you here today. And thank you for gracing our show. Some people might have noticed in the video, Elizabeth Croydon was in it, Kamala Lopez, lots of people who have been on the show before. So thank you, Natalie. Let's dance this thing out. I have a fellow named DeForest who is going to be playing a classic ELO song for us all by himself. Dance him if you got him. Here he is, DeForest. Go to his YouTube channel. He allowed us to play this here today. It's all him.
The city streets are empty now. The lights don't shine no more. I
love ELO. I don't know about y'all. It's one of my favorites.
A sound that flows into my mind.
Guy could be my like brother, son. You know, I have similar hair.
I turned to stone when you were gone. I turned to stone. Turn to stone when you're coming home.
There's a part coming up that I'll be really interested in how he tackles it.
Yes, I'm turning to stone 'cause you ain't coming out while you're just coming home. If I turn into stone, you make up for so long that I can't carry on. Yes, I'm turning to stone.
All right, thanks Natalie for being on the show, and thank you for, or thank you DeForest. I was trying to think of his name. Thank you DeForest for the music, and thanks everybody for being here. We'll see you on Tuesday. Over and out.